The chamber trembled with the pressure of 12 distinct gravities as the Deathworld Council assembled on Kezer. For the volcanic moon they all considered neutral enough to avoid conflict. The air was thick with sulfur, but not one species minded. To them, discomfort was a sign of power. If you couldn't breathe the room, you didn't belong in it. The Skarzul arrived first, trailing plasma vapor from their molten exosuits, blood still sizzling on their claws from their most recent conquest. Behind them came the Illithin, dragging an echo of psychic static as their hive mind adjusted to the ambient telepathic field. Then came the Gron, whose armored forms cracked the obsidian floor beneath their feet. With each step, one after another, the monsters of the galaxy took their places. Creatures from acid worlds, high radiation tomb planets, and frozen death spheres. 12 seats were filled. One remained empty. That one, hissed the Skarzul chieftain, gestured with a claw toward the last chair, was offered to the humans. A ripple of dry laughter skittered through the chamber. They're not Deathworlders, sneered an Illithin node, its voice like flayed metal. They come from a planet with rainbows. They fought themselves into extinction. Barely reversed it, rumbled a Gron warrior priest. Now, they play empire with soft colonies and diplomatic channels. They have no place here. A vote was called. 11-1. The empty chair would be revoked. The Illithin sealed the motion with a psychic signature. The council's judgment was final. Then the sky cracked open. Without clearance, without preamble, a vessel dropped through Kezer 4's upper atmosphere like a thrown blade. It burned no fuel and offered no signal. Just black metal scarred with recent impacts and streaked with dried ichor, green, blue, and human red. It landed on the edge of the council's platform, crushing a lesser envoy's shuttle like it was paper. No one moved. The ship's ramp hissed open, venting vapor. 3 humans stepped out. No guards. No banners. Each clad in pressure-sealed armor, matte black with insignias scorched off. Their gait was slow, unshaken. One of them carried a large crate sealed with triple biometric locks. Another wore a dry blood smear across his visor. No attempt had been made to clean it. Weapons raised. The Gron leveled plasma javelins. The Skarzul's claws sparked. The Illithin's minds bristled. The lead human spoke, with a voice modulated for the multilingual chamber. Flat, cold. We heard you were discussing monsters. He set the crate down and pressed a code into its surface. Hissing steam escaped as the seals disengaged. The lid fell open with a dull thud. Inside were heads. 3 severed heads. Each one belonging to a species no one in the chamber immediately recognized. Twisted skulls, obsidian eyes, armored mandibles. Dead and lifeless now, but still radiating something unnatural. The Illithin recoiled. The Skarzul leaned forward. The second human said, "We found your pets." Silence. They weren't from any council race, which means someone's been breeding things off the registry. We traced them to a cluster of labs. Hidden, illegal, funded through front companies under council codes. Another silence, the kind that precedes fear. We burned them all. The Gron war priest growled. You had no jurisdiction. The humans stepped forward. We don't need it. You called us prey. You thought we wouldn't notice when our colonies vanished, when our terraformers went dark, when civilians disappeared. You thought we'd talk. He looked around the chamber, visor glowing faintly red. We don't talk anymore. The Skarzul chieftain pointed a molten claw. You come here without invitation. You make threats. The third human, silent until now, finally removed their helmet. Scarred, tired, young. Their eyes held something worse than rage, conviction. This isn't a threat. They gestured to the crate. This is a receipt. Council members shifted in their seats. The gravity field fluctuated as multiple power cores surged to life. Violence hovered in the air, tangible and tempting. The first human spoke again. You think this council is a summit of predators, but all we see are tyrants who confuse cruelty with power. You hurt what you can't control. You mutilate what you don't understand. The second human placed a hand on the crate, as if steadying it for emphasis. You touched us. They turned to walk toward the empty seat. No one moved to stop them. The humans stepped up the platform, past a dozen species whose combined kill counts had erased entire solar systems. They sat. No ceremony. No acceptance. They simply took the chair that had been denied them. The Gron snarled, "You cannot claim what has not been granted." The first human tilted his head. "We just did." A long silence stretched again, broken only by the whine of cooling systems. The Skarzul asked, "Why now? Why not send envoys?" Warnings. The third human looked across the chamber. "We sent envoys. You dissected them." A flicker of motion as several council members pulled up shared records, classified, restricted. The files referenced black sites, human prisoners, biological samples, unethical experimentation, all tied to shadow operations linked indirectly to council funding. It had been a test. The humans had responded. The first human stood again. "We're not here to debate. We came to deliver notice. You escalated. We adapted. You tried to cull us. We evolved. We are not here for peace." He paused. "We're here for balance." They turned to leave. Two followed. The third stayed a moment longer, gaze sweeping the room. "You thought we were primitive." He pointed toward the crate. "Those things made your nightmares. We killed them on foot." Then he left. The ramp closed. The ship rose without flame or sound and vanished into the black sky. For the first time since the council's formation, none of its members spoke. The humans hadn't come to ask for a seat. They came to prove they already earned it. Earth was never meant to survive. The early surveys had marked it as unstable, tectonically volatile, atmospherically chaotic, teeming with apex predators. A borderline death world, barely qualifying a Class 5. What caught the council's attention wasn't the weather or wildlife. It was the species crawling out of radiation storms and building again and again, no matter how many times they burned themselves to the ground. The consensus was to watch from afar. Interference was deemed unnecessary. Civil war, climate collapse, nuclear brinkmanship. It was assumed the humans would eradicate themselves without external input, but Earth stabilized. Then it reached orbit, then Mars, then Proxima, not with grace, with stubborn fury. The Council surveillance reports changed in tone. One analyst from Gron referred to humans as the only species we've observed that treats extinction as a challenge. It wasn't a compliment. For decades, humanity played the part the galaxy expected. Curious, eager, spreading slowly. They signed peace accords, sent ambassadors, traded politely, but they expanded fast. Too fast. They began settling in sectors previously avoided by stronger species. And they thrived there. Acid-rich atmospheres, high-gravity dead rocks, silent moons no other race dared colonize. Some on the council grew nervous. Others decided to act. It started quietly. A lab here, a research ship there. 12 colonies disappeared over 3 years. The official logs blamed solar flares, meteor strikes, reactor malfunctions. No bodies were ever recovered. No black boxes. No distress calls. But Earth noticed. First came the drones, small, unarmed, scanning the edges of space council species called forbidden. Then came the silence. No more diplomatic meetings. No more trade. Human fleets stopped broadcasting identification beacons. They vanished from sight. The council assumed it was retreat, a race recognizing its limits. Then the Illithan hive on Thalka went dark. For hours. That's how long it took. From the first orbital breach to the last neural scream, the hive collapsed without warning. Surveillance captured only one visual. A black drone drifting above the surface, spraying nanite clouds at targeted neuroelectric signatures. The entire hive mind collapsed mid-thought. No survivors. No messages sent. No declarations issued. 6 days later, a Skarzul ambush fleet attacked the outer ring of Earth's Deltapraxin outpost. It never made it to orbit. Orbital defense systems activated with no central command. AI-controlled, self-adaptive. The Skarzul ships, shielded against plasma and radiation, were torn apart by kinetic projectiles traveling faster than their systems could detect. Surveillance footage recovered by an emergency beacon showed the final Skarzul cruiser tumbling into the system's sun. Still intact, its doors sealed, its crew screaming inside. The council debated. Some claimed rogue AI. Others suspected the humans had made deals with unknown powers. Then the Grand flagship, Devourer's Oath, vanished. It had been performing a ceremonial patrol near the neutral colony of Crescent 4, home to a mixed-species settlement, including human engineers. The ship's last transmission was a single word in Terran Standard: observed. 90 seconds later, the entire vessel ceased transmission. A scout ship found it 2 weeks later. No hull breach, no structural damage. The crew were all dead, still at their stations. Autopsies revealed complete internal liquefaction. Every bone dissolved, every organ shattered. The exterior showed no damage. Someone had reached inside the ship and killed everyone without opening a single door. That's when the council realized they weren't dealing with escalation. They were dealing with retaliation. A pattern emerged. Every lost colony corresponded to a facility, lab, or fleet involved, directly or indirectly, in the abduction and experimentation of human subjects. Every one of those facilities had been annihilated with surgical brutality. They had taken children, minors, colonists. The humans didn't send diplomats. They sent hunters. Footage leaked, origin unknown, showing one of the cleanup operations. A squad of human operatives in modular armor descending into a biological weapon facility hidden beneath an ice moon. The defenders, insectoid mercs bred for close-quarter slaughter, were cut down without a single human casualty. The video showed no fear, no chatter, just movement, calculated, precise, lethal, a phrase repeated at the end of each mission. We are not here for war. We are here for balance. The council couldn't decide if that was diplomacy or a warning. The Illithian attempted a psychic strike, using an amplifier drone to breach Earth's outer mind shields and destabilize their neural command web. The drone exploded 0.2 seconds after activation. No source of the countersignal was identified. It simply ceased to exist. Skarzul war clans began refusing contracts involving human targets. Their elders called it honor avoidance. The Grand issued a silent decree banning raids on Terran colonies. Some called it cowardice. Others called it survival. One thing was clear. The humans had never intended to conquer. They had no empire, no throne world, no central command. Their response wasn't strategic. It was personal. They were cleaning up. Each retaliation carried a message. Each target was deliberate. Each action was final. They didn't escalate. They ended. And as the council met in secret to discuss the growing pattern, a single dossier made its rounds. It contained the names of every facility, every lab, every vessel linked to the human disappearances, and a question written in Terran text across the top. Do you think we forgot? Below that, a second line. We found every one of you. The file had no sender, no trace route, just coordinates. And at the bottom, a countdown. The countdown reached 0 at 3 o'clock Standard Galactic Time. Across 12 sectors simultaneously, council facilities went dark. Not bombed, not overrun, silenced. The orbital stations around barracks burned first. Auto defense systems turned inward, targeting their own life support cores. A research lab orbiting a dwarf star imploded on itself. Its neutron field ruptured by precision-bored graviton spikes. On Alrec 7, an entire fleet of Council-operated black ships lost navigation and drifted into the planet's radiation belt. Their hulls melted from the inside out. No human fleet was detected. No transmissions intercepted. No signs of entry or exit. Just destruction, methodical and exact. Every target had been on the list. The Grand Supreme Circle called an emergency war council. 47 chieftains attended. By the end of the hour, 19 were dead, airlock sabotage. Another 11 choked on nerve gas deployed by their own security systems. The remaining ones fled. The circle disbanded before the suns rose over their homeworld. A whisper began spreading in council space. Ghost fleets, ships with no signatures, no transponders, drones that flickered in and out of phase, operating in quantum blind spots, impossibly fast strikes. Not a war machine, an ecosystem of coordinated vengeance, honed to surgical violence. No army could predict them. No strategy could counter them. The council ordered full mobilization. Defensive lines were redrawn around core worlds. Billions of credits spent. Generals reassigned. Dreadnoughts deployed. Nothing happened. Weeks passed. Then Earth spoke. A single message. Encrypted on a rotating quantum band only the council could decrypt. No visuals. Just audio. You took what was ours. You tried to erase us quietly. A pause. No emotion. Just cold, practiced fury. We don't erase quietly. They tried to track the origin. By the time they triangulated, the signal was bouncing through over 900 satellites in unclaimed space. At the same moment, on the isolated penal moon of Shaltok, R9, the last living witness to Crescent 4 disappearances, was found dead in a cell. No signs of forced entry. The security AI had looped 36 seconds of blank footage, just long enough for someone to step inside and out. In orbit above the Council's main archives on Duraxis Prime, a monument appeared. Not built, not launched, just there, a massive human skull, sculpted from neutronium and scarred with names, colonies, victims, dates. Laser etched across its cranium. This is what you woke up? Duraxis was evacuated within the hour. The council met again, fewer members this time. The Illithins sent only drones. The Skarzul arrived under diplomatic colors, claws sheathed, weapons sealed. The Gron had no official representation. One seat remained filled, the humans. They didn't speak. They didn't submit demands. They simply watched. That was what terrified the council most. Humans had stopped negotiating. Centuries of galactic tradition dictated war, followed procedure, declarations, front lines, treaties, territory. The humans weren't playing that game. They weren't interested in territory. They didn't want surrender. They wanted memory. And they wanted the council to remember what it had done. More facilities went dark. Council member species began internal purges, cleaning records, destroying data, silencing scientists and commanders involved in the black projects. It didn't work. The humans had already copied everything. On Threx 4, during a cultural celebration, a data core crashed into the main plaza, a hardened probe filled with over 10 terabytes of video logs, experiment records, and transport schedules. Each log was dated, each victim identified. The Threxans were not council members, but the footage showed their DNA donors funding trials. Their citizens rioted within hours. The government collapsed within days. Other species began defecting, not to humanity, but away from the council. Fear spread faster than war. A new phrase entered galactic speech, whispered first as a joke, then as a warning. Pray the humans only want justice. On an isolated asteroid in the Jove system, a council-aligned mercenary company found itself under assault. No fleet, no infantry. The rock they stood on cracked in half, split by a rail projectile launch from 3 systems away. A single sniper kill, calculated through stellar drift and gravitational shifts, delivered at light minutes distance. It became clear this was not war. This was judgment. Then, finally, a message came, not from Earth, but from an independent Terran colony on the edge of dead space, known for mining plasma-rich ores. The transmission was simple. A young girl's voice. They came. They took my father. My brother. They said we were dangerous. A pause. Then static. Then an older voice. You were right. We are. The council tried again to sue for peace. They sent envoys, probes, gifts. No response. Only silence and the occasional disappearance of those envoys mid-transit. The final act came unexpectedly. Above the twin moons of Halvaris, a council war game was in progress. 8 factions, hundreds of ships. A show of force to remind the galaxy who held power. That's when the signal came. Terran Standard, broadcast across all channels. One word. Observe. From the darkness beyond the system, a fleet emerged. Not massive, not overwhelming. Just wrong. Black holes with no visible engines, no lights, no heat, ships that bent light and read as empty space. They moved without inertia, reacted before being targeted, and they began. In 7 minutes, the war game fleet was annihilated, not disabled, not captured, deleted. Weapons designed to disable shields instead erased hulls entirely. Kinetic blast penetrated phase armor. Nanite clouds rendered biological crew into carbon dust in under 30 seconds. No survivors. No escape pods. Just one final transmission from the last Council Admiral. They're not here to talk. They're here to end it. The feed cut. The Council, once feared across galaxies, stood stripped of its power. Its armies shattered. Its alliances fractured. Its weapons ineffective. And above all, watched. Because the humans were not invading. They weren't conquering. They were letting everyone see what happened when the monsters forgot to check under the bed. The Deathworld Council convened in silence, not in the usual halls of Duraxis Prime, now abandoned. They met in orbit around a dead moon. No names, no records, no beacons. Just cold rock and the shattered pride of a galactic order brought low. Only 17 species remained at the table. Of the original 42, more than half had withdrawn, defected, or simply vanished. Some exterminated by their own populations. Others self-terminated rather than face what humanity had become. The seats around the chamber flickered with ghost signals. Many members refused to attend in person. They feared human eyes watching from shadows, eyes that never blinked. The chair, a multi-limbed being from the Zal Dominion, spoke with what little authority remained. We must negotiate. The room held its breath, though none dared say it. Negotiation required leverage. The humans had removed that. Every weapon countered. Every defense bypassed. Every act of intimidation ignored. What remained was fear. Raw, clean, sobering fear. The silence was broken by a single transmission. No visual, no signature. Just a voice, this time human, male, weary, and cold. Your council is dissolved. Your debts are due. There were no ultimatums, no terms. The voice didn't ask for peace. It declared consequence. Moments later, an encrypted file arrived on each delegate's console. A simple ledger, facility coordinates, personnel names, crimes cataloged. Beneath each name, paid or pending. The chair trembled. They're keeping score. On the outer edges of council space, the cleansing continued. Abandoned research stations were glassed from orbit. Hidden bunkers, deep beneath oceans or embedded in stars, were surgically removed. It wasn't just destruction. It was excision, a galactic cauterization of guilt. Yet through it all, Earth remained still. No celebrations, no parades, only quiet resolve. And the ships, dozens, hundreds, newer, larger, designed not for conquest, but prevention. Each fitted with cold AI, programmed with coordinates and mission logs tied to the ledger. They didn't guard borders. They watched sins. Word spread fast. If you saw one, it was already too late. Smaller races began to reach out, not with treaties, but with records, evidence, confessions, a form of penance. The humans responded only once. A message from the Soul High Tribunal. Your willingness to admit fault is noted. We remember your silence during our suffering, but we also remember those who broke ranks. Some of you warned us. Some helped our people escape. The tribunal never named them, but those races were spared. Their colonies flourished. Trade resumed, quietly, through proxy channels. It wasn't forgiveness. It was acknowledgement. The galaxy learned. Empires that once ruled by terror now rule by merit. Species once protected by force now earn protection through integrity. Entire institutions collapsed and were rebuilt, not by human demand, but from fear of human memory. Justice, once an illusion, became policy. Still, not all listened. In the shadows of the fractured council, a rogue coalition formed. The Reth Syndicate. Ex-military, ex-scientists, fanatics, loyalists to the old power. They launched a final gambit. Operation Iron Memory. Their plan: strike Earth, cripple its planetary AI network, kill the myth. They build a stealth fleet, coded dark, faster than light, with quantum interference shielding. 12 ships. Aboard them, virus payloads, kinetic warheads, no bombs. They launch from deep space undetected. Halfway to Sol, their fleet disappeared. Not destroyed. Gone. A week later, each member of the syndicate woke up in isolated cryopods. No control. No signals. Each pod drifted in orbit around the worlds where human colonies had been erased years before. And on the surface of those dead colonies, etched into the soil or mountains or glaciers, in every language known to the galaxy, "We found you." The syndicate dissolved overnight. No one tried again. Years passed. Not peace, but balance. Humanity rebuilt not just their colonies, but their image. Slowly, carefully. No broadcasts. No declarations of superiority. They returned to exploration, science, trade. But every ship they launched carried a black mark beneath its hull, a symbol known now to every race. A hand gripping a flame over a shattered circle. Vigilance through memory. They didn't demand trust. They demanded accountability. They did not forgive what was done, but they ensured it would never be done again. And so, in time, a strange respect grew. Races once terrified of humans began to study them. Their history, their culture. They saw not monsters, but survivors. A species born in storm and raised by fire, who had never been taught mercy, but learned justice through blood. They were not the strongest, not the most advanced, but they were the one species no other dared test twice. And then came the moment the galaxy never expected. Another species rose. Smaller, younger, from a world marked class 6. Fierce, brilliant, unstable. The Council, or what remained of it, watched as they expanded. There was fear. Would they repeat the cycle? Would they challenge the humans? The answer came when their ambassador arrived at a neutral station and walked into a human outpost. He bowed. "We have read your history. We have seen your pain. We carry the lessons with us." No treaties were signed, just a handshake. And from that day, the galaxy understood. Humanity was no longer a threat. They were a warning. And above every world touched by Council corruption, a satellite now orbits, Terran black, silent and cold, unmanned. It sends no messages. It fires no weapons. It simply watches. A constant reminder to every species still breathing. The day humanity arrived at the Deathworld Council, they came with blood on their ships. And they weren't there to make peace. They were there to ensure memory never died again.